You're listening to The Other 50%, A Herstory of Hollywood. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I wanted to give you a little bit more of Jill Danyenica, so this is a bonus episode. There are a few minutes of her talking about her philosophy of editing, which I thought was really yummy and juicy, and I wanted to make sure that you got to hear it. And then after that, I'm going to share with you an art project that she did 20 years or so ago, because it's beautiful and it's cool, and I want to see if we can get a little bit of participation on it. Anyway, you can find us online at theother50%.com, all spelled out. You can follow us on Facebook, The Other 50%, that's 50% sign. iTunes, The Other 50%. And if you're listening on iTunes, I would really appreciate it if you go and leave a review or leave a rating, because that will really help people to find us. And then on Twitter, it's Other 50%, P-E-R-C-E-N-T. Here's more Jill.
As an editor, I think part of my job is to take whatever material is given to me and bring it to a certain level. Mm-hmm. So in some cases, that's very easy because the material is just beautiful and we say cuts like butter. You know, like
it's all there.
It's all there. And I have an embarrassment of riches to choose from. But in some cases, in the indie film world or sometimes on a tight schedule in TV, or with a director that doesn't know the show as well. In some cases, the material's a little more shaky, but it doesn't matter. I still have to bring it to this level.
Yeah.
I don't let anyone see it until I feel that it's the best it can be, and it has to be at least at this baseline. And my low-hanging fruit of a goal in the editing room is to never make it worse.
Yeah.
Always make it better. Always make it better. And so whenever I get a note from a director, even a producer, or the studio, I look for the spirit of the note. If I feel like I can't accomplish the specific note, or if I feel like the specific note will make the show worse, I try to look at what the underlying spirit of the note is and address that.
Because really you're after a feeling or a sense or a...
Right. You know, if they say, go to a close-up for that line, well, maybe what you don't want is a close-up. Maybe what you want is to really make sure that that line is emphasized.
Yeah.
To make sure that we feel it when that line lands. And your go-to is close-up. But maybe there's another way to make that line land.
So you look for the intent rather than the prescriptive.
Exactly. And I always am putting myself in the place of the audience member. And I want to give an emotional experience. So my number one goal is... My number one commitment is to the emotion of the scene, and my number two commitment is to the plot of the show, and number three down the line is that continuity. And they all should be in concert, they all should be working, but number one, I have to make you feel the reality of that situation. I have to make you feel it on a real level. No matter how outlandish what's happening in the scene, I want you to feel it and experience it as a real experience.
We got to believe it.
You have to believe it. And so that's my job. I'm in there as the ultimate audience member, trying to make you believe what's happening.
And can you see, if you're just getting dailies and you're not really thinking about who directed it or what, can you tell, oh, this is a first-time director or this is an inexperienced?
No, not necessarily. But I can, sometimes, I guess I'm taking that back. Sometimes you can feel the lack of experience in the room. But more often, I can feel a real master. Because I'll watch the dailies and I'll be able to see, they've given me a roadmap and I can see it. I look at the shots and I say, oh, we're starting here. And then we're going to go over here. And then I can just, it's orchestrated in such a way. Now, sometimes I've created that in my own head. And I'll show it to them and they'll go, wow, I never thought of the scene that way, but I like it.
You're like, but that's how you laid it out for me.
But you laid it out that way for me. And sometimes they'll say, I never thought of the scene that way and I have another way in. Great, let's try it. I always, even if I feel like I've created a little jewel of a scene, I try not to say no to any note or suggestion. Partially because that's my job, right? I'm being paid to work and it's their turn to make their cut. But also because I don't think that I've got the best solution.
It might be better.
It might be better. And working together, we might come up with something that makes it even better.
Right.
And
if it's already great,
then it'll just be better. Exactly. So like I said, I try never to make it worse. And if I feel like a note makes it worse or somehow the emotion is lessened or it's not as clear anymore, I speak up. I know editors who don't, who just make the note because that's what the person wanted. But I actually, at the potential cost of, someone being unhappy with me, but they're not usually, because I'm kind and I'm collaborative, I think.
Because it's a collaborative art.
It's a collaborative art. And so I will speak my mind, and I think people respect me for that and actually appreciate that about me in the editing room when I can say, I don't agree.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of times where I'm overridden, and I'm told, too bad you don't agree. This is what you have to do. Make it work. And I'll go, okay. And then my next directive is to make that work the best I can. Mm-hmm. Given that note, given the fact that I can't wiggle out of it, surrender. And you know what? Like 9 times out of 10, I can make it better that way too. Mm-hmm. But I have to get myself around it. So it's super collaborative. And
so you have the right attitude.
Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. I mean, it helps that I love the job.
Yeah.
And I love collaborating. I love being alone and working, and I love collaborating with people. I love directors. I love the way their minds work. I love producers, because producers are holding the whole series in their, they're holding the whole entire series in their heads, not just the one episode.
Yeah.
They're looking out for the bigger picture.
Because they know what's happening 3 episodes from now.
Yeah. So they know why that look was important. That I have to really focus on that. And whereas I might not have that information yet.
Okay, now we'll switch tack slightly and talk about her art project that she did in the 90s. Now stay till the end, because if you have one of these angels, I'm going to want to know about it. Here, listen. Okay, so in the 90s you did this angel project.
Yes.
What was that?
So right out of art school, I made a piece called Angels, or often it's referred to as Looking for Angels. And the piece was, I began it on the first anniversary of the Los Angeles civil unrest, so in April of 1993. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, over the period of 18 months, I put 4,687 bright magenta plaster angels throughout the city of LA.
Was there significance in that number?
Yes, Los Angeles is 468.7 square miles, Los Angeles proper, and I thought for the impact to be felt, I would need 10 angels per square mile. Probably I needed more, but I couldn't imagine doing more than that.
Yeah.
And so I did 4,687 of these bright magenta angels, and volunteers and I, over the course of 18 months, left them in every square mile of Los Angeles for people to find and take. And the idea,
just like on the corner, on a fence?
They were in 4,687 different places. Some were on bus stops, some were outside of businesses, some were on the Venice Canal, some were in front of schools and churches. We handed some to people on the street. One volunteer put a whole bunch of them all in a park, just laid out 20 of them in a park in the same place. Because I empowered the volunteers to go out there. All I did was I gave them a section of the map of LA. At the time it was Thomas Brothers Maps. And so I would
the Thomas Guide.
Yeah, the Thomas Guide. So I would Xerox a part of the map, and I would give them a range of numbers. So I would put a team of two volunteers together with 50 angels in the back of their car or truck, and the numbers. You're going to number them with this number pad and stamp pad from this number to that number, and leave them anywhere along this line on the map that you want, and have any encounter that you want. And I just asked them not to describe it as art. So if someone asked, what are you doing? They could say whatever they wanted, but they couldn't call it an art piece.
We're just doing this thing.
Just leaving angels here. And I remember one time I walked up to a vendor somewhere and I said, would you like an angel? And he said, no, I don't want to buy an angel. And I said, no, they're not for sale, it's free. And he looked at me and he said, nothing's free.
Aww.
And I said, these angels are free. And he went, I don't want one. And I said, you sure? Not for your grandkids or someone you love? No. And I walked away and I looked back at him and I said, I think you should give this to somebody if you don't want it. And I handed it to him. And when I handed it to him, his whole face changed. It just started glowing, like he got it.
Yeah.
He
couldn't believe it.
It was just a random gift.
Yeah.
And the piece was, now I see all sorts of wonderful pieces sort of in this genre, but at the time I think it was one of the first ones that did this sort of these chaotic happenings out in the real environment. Like, I love, my favorite art pieces are flash mobs, or the Yes Men, or Improv Everywhere, where these things just sort of happen out in the real space. And that was sort of this was one of those pieces that was early on in that kind of way of art making.
How did you get the idea?
I had a little angel that I had bought one day because I thought it was really cute, and I brought it home and I painted it magenta on a whim. And no matter where I put it in my art studio, it brightened up the space. And every time I looked at it, I thought, I became very happy. It wasn't a time in my life where I was very happy, but every time I looked at this angel, it just made me smile. It was so fun and funky and playful. And so I thought, God, these angels should just be everywhere. And I didn't know what I was saying. And then one night I was driving home from work. I was waiting tables at the time, and I was driving home from work and on the freeway, and I saw downtown LA in front of me, and the idea hit me like it had been beamed down. And the idea was that the angels belonged all over Los Angeles. And it took me, I came home, and I started writing my sort of artist statement about what this piece would be. And it took me until after I had finished writing the artist statement that the reason why it was so appropriate that the angels be all over Los Angeles is that Los Angeles is the city of angels. And I chided myself for being so dense and laughed, and then proceeded to make the piece.
And it was a time when the city needed so much healing.
I remember seeing a magazine article, Time or Newsweek, and the cover was, "Has the City of Angels Gone to Hell?" And I thought, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is such a vibrant city. It's so wonderful. Like, it's absolutely such an incredible city. And all the news we were getting, all the feedback we were getting was just about how terrible it was. And the riots were terrible. I agree, except that, after the first night, when I could smell smoke from my balcony outside my studio, it was that close because it was everywhere in the city. But after the first night, friends and I went down to the First AME Church in South Central and asked if we could help out. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people from all over the city doing the same thing. But that didn't show up on the news until day 4.
Right.
So there were 4 days of people volunteering, asking what they could do, reaching out, becoming a community, helping each other from different communities, that the news didn't cover for 4 days because it wasn't as sexy to them as playing the same footage of guns and violence and fires. So that was sort of the milieu in my city at the time. When I came up with the idea, I realized that the first anniversary of the civil unrest was occurring in about, I think it was 3 or 4 weeks after when I came up with the idea. And so I thought, okay, that's when I'm going to start it. I'm going to start it, and it's going to be a symbol of healing and a symbol of what's really amazing and wonderful about the city. And it's going to go throughout the city because I wanted to unite the entire city with this common symbol and not just have it be for one part of the city.
I love it.
Thanks.
And would you describe yourself? How do you say you're an artist? Do you say you're an editor? How do you...
I say...
What's on your calling card?
Here, I'll show you what's on my calling card. You'll see what's on my calling card, and you'll get a kick out of it. There's my card.
Visual artist, filmmaker, bad mother. Perfect.
That's me.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Julie.
This was so great.
Okay, now I've put a link to Jill's website on my website so you can go and have a look at these angels and the project. If you have one of these angels or you know where they are, please go to my Facebook page, The Other 50%, and put a comment underneath Jill's episode. You can upload a picture if you have one. It'd be great to see if we know where some of these angels are this many years later. You've been listening to The Other 50%. I'm Julie Harris Walker. I'd like to thank Jill Danyenica for telling us her story. And special thanks to Jonathan Lucas for editing, Jay Rowe, Danny Rosner, and Allison McQuaid for the music. Please find us on iTunes and subscribe and leave a review, and on our website, theother50%.com, all spelled out for added features and bios of our guests. You can also follow us on Facebook under The Other 50%, the numbers and the percentage sign, and on Twitter as @other50%.
Thanks for listening. See you next time.